Hey, what's up guys, and welcome to Cosplay with Clement. Today I'm going to show you how I made my Joel costume from The Last of Us. Hi, I'm Clement, and today to celebrate the new Last of Us TV show, I've decided to put together a Joel costume from the first Last of Us game. I know it looks quite simple, but very often simple things can be quite difficult. So I will take you along for the journey. The first thing you want to do when making a costume is often to look at reference picture. So to do that, let's go to the PC and figure it out.
So here we have Google. I've just typed in Joel Last of Us 1, and yeah, we can get some pictures. They're not all great. This one is okay, but it's a bit small, as you can see. We can get some kind of concept arts where we see kind of the main elements of the costume. Like also, if you can't find the shirt, Joel is also wearing different shirts in the game, so you can find something else. If like you have already a shirt like this, you don't need to buy a whole new one. So let's look at a few reference pictures. That we can see that we will need a lamp, that the shirt is kind of a greenish, like this one is quite washed off with like red lines. It's a bit difficult to see on those pictures because they're not great, honestly. One other thing that you can do is go, say, on Instagram and look at the cosplayers that you like that have cosplayed Joel. For me, that's going to be Mo cosplay because this dude is like, just look at the kind of costume he does. And a few years back, he did a Joel costume from The Last of Us. You can see that like some of these images can act as very good reference pictures. Like we can see the shirt really clearly. We can see like some of the props, like the gas mask here is, you can see it very well. You can see the weathering a little bit. So these are pretty good reference pictures. And on top of that, he posted in 2020 a few images of how he made a backpack, for example. So you can see like some of the details, like the watch, how it looks, and the shirt. Yeah, you can see the pattern on the shirt. So it's really cool. Like good reference pictures, and we can use those. So now, with that in mind, you can clearly see that like there are a few items that are almost necessary to make this simple but iconic look work. And I've identified 5 main items that we will need. Those are the shirt, the backpack, the watch, the gas mask, and the flashlight. So let's go on to Amazon, and I'm going to show you how I found the items that I'm using. So the first thing that I did was type in gas mask, and you have a lot to choose from. I chose to go with this one, which is not a perfect match for the reference picture, uh, but it has only the one filter on one side. It's on the cheaper side ish, and also it was coming quite fast when I bought it, so it fits pretty well with what I need from the mask. Next thing that I did was to type in military watch because weirdly enough, this kind of watch that we have our reference for is considered military. So you can buy this one. It's pretty cheap. It's like £20. The one that I found has a black um, face for the watch, which I like a bit better, and you have different options. But yeah, just look into it. Just so you know, for the watch and the flashlight, I went to some surplus military store, and I couldn't find any of those. Maybe in the US you'll have more of a chance to find them, but here in the UK they're not that common. Then I went on to find the flashlight, which is called an angle head flashlight. Um, and then I just looked around. This one's pretty cool, and that's the first one that I bought. This is this one. And one thing that I did not notice is that it is 21 centimeters. I'm gonna put some footage now, and you'll see why it was a mistake. So I got this one, which like look before you buy because you can end up with something that's too big. So I ended up buying that one afterwards, and it's the perfect size for the costume. The other one was way too big. Then I've put in vintage backpack, and we're looking for a backpack a bit like this. And then this style of backpack is like up to you. Maybe you prefer something a bit like this. Maybe like the color is not important for you and you're going to do like more cosplay and completely repaint it. I've decided to go with this one, if I remember correctly. And yeah, it's it's a backpack that I'm using also in my daily life. So I think it's a good balance between something that you can wear and like if I remove like the duct tape and the bandages on it, it looks fine and I can wear it every day. And also, once again, not too expensive, so it's not breaking the bank. Next, the shirt. And the shirt is the most difficult part of the costume to find. There is almost no way you can find a perfect shirt, except for one, and I'll show it to you in a minute. So I've typed in plaid shirt green for this one on Amazon, and like you can see how they look like. There's like nothing that's quite matching with like the reference picture. This one looks pretty cool. It could do the trick, but it's still not quite there yet. And you can scroll for hours and hours. You can try eBay, you can try Amazon, you can try H&M. I haven't found anything. So if you do find it, good luck and please share it in the comments. Uh, I liked this one, I think, but it was a bit too expensive. And also, it's still not quite there yet. Now, if you want the perfect Joel shirt, there's this website called Insert Coin that makes a replica of the shirt. And I have seen it on another cosplayer, and the shirt is amazing. But, first of all, it's £45. And secondly, all the sizes are sold out. So, unless you're very lucky to be either an extra small or a XXXL, you can't buy this shirt. I'm hoping that with the TV show, they will be like, oh, maybe some people will want to buy the shirt, and they will restock it. But for now, nothing. One thing you could do, if you wanted to, I've thought about that, is buy the XXXL and tailor it. It might be a lot of work, or you might pay extra for a tailor to do it, but it might be worth the extra effort if you want something that's completely matching. For me, that was not worth the price. I know my sewing skills are not good enough, so I didn't do that. But that's something you could do. I found the shirt that I'm using in a store in the UK called Next. So yeah, that's all that we needed to find for the boots and the pants and the belt. I found everything that I needed in my house. Like I had an old pair of jeans that I could destroy for a costume, a pair of boots that's gonna work for that. I can use the boots that I'm using for my Mando costume. Yeah, it's quite easy to find. So now I'm gonna show you how it looks when we put everything together, and we'll move on from there. By the way, guys, I try and stream from here about once a week. So if you want, you can join me at twitch.tv/the_chatman. I'll put the link in the description, but just so you know, most of my streams are in French. If we put everything together, this is how it looks. I say it's pretty good with the amount of work we've put in so far, but we're far too clean, so it's time for some weathering. For this, I've decided to try some things that I don't usually do. First thing I did was to use some sandpaper on all the fabric, mostly to create like small holes and have the fabric look worn and weathered. Then, with some acrylic paints, I use mostly black, rose sienna and burnt umber, I try to think about where the clothes would look dirty and worn. So for the jeans, it's mostly at the bottom. For the shirt, it's like in the neck area, underneath the armpit, this kind of stuff. And then I've decided that it looked pretty good, but I wanted to put some blood on the shirt. So, following the holes that I've made, I've decided to put quite a bit of blood, like if Joel went through a fight or something like this. For the props, I've decided that I will use my usual technique, which usually is just put a lot of paint on the prop and then with a cloth try and remove as much of it as I can, leaving some brown dirt or black around the crevices, the pits, the kind of stuff that would naturally like gather in those kind of places. So I did this for the mask, And for the lamp, I've also decided to do some dry brushing with a tiny bit of silver. So to dry brush something, you just put a tiny bit of paint on your brush. You almost completely wipe it off, and then you just brush the sides of what you want to highlight on your prop. And this is how the edges of the lamp look a bit silvery in some way. For the backpack, I've decided to follow the reference pictures a bit more. So I've used a bit of duct tape on the big pocket on the backpack, followed by a quick wash of paint to make it look dirty and old. Then, for the straps, I've used some bandages to wrap around the left strap around the shoulder and on the right strap around the flashlight so that it would stay in place. I followed it by a couple of washes of dirty paint and we're good to go. I've decided to keep the backpack fairly clean because I'm still using this backpack in my daily life. And this way, with the way I've done the weathering, I can just take off the bandages, take off the duct tape, and my backpack is pretty much good to go. And that's it. The weathering is finished. The weathering, yes. The costume, kinda. But we're still missing something, right? Yes, props. You need cool props to take cool pictures. And I'm gonna show you how I did it.
In the game, there are kind of four kinds of props. First of all would be the shivs. Next we have the bombs, being the nail bombs or the Molotov cocktails. Then we have the melee weapons, and finally the guns. So I'm going to show you how I made each of those so they would be con safe and you can take them pretty much anywhere to take super cool pictures with them.
Alright, let's start with the shiv. So, I didn't have any 10mm EVA foam, so I glued two layers of 5mm together, and I then cut a rough shape of what I thought that the shiv should look like. Then, I've kind of refined the edge with first the box cutter, then some sandpaper, and we're almost done. I painted it silver, put a little bit of rust and blood on it, and then wrapped the handle with some bandages again. And we have a shiv. For the melee weapon, I've chosen the pipe. I've started with a thin cardboard tube that I cut and bent, and then I wrapped the whole thing in a layer of 5mm EVA foam again. This way, it gets a bit thicker, so it looks a bit better than just a cardboard tube, and also, it's a bit soft, so if you accidentally hit someone with it, it's fine. I've decided to go with the bladed version, so I've used my scissors as a template to cut some scissors shape EVA foam again, and then glued it on the bent portion of the pipe. Then, painted the whole thing silver, added some rust, added some blood, and then wrapped some bandages and some duct tape around the bent to make it look like it was holding the scissors. For the explosive, I've decided to do the nail bomb. I think it's going to be easier to check into a con rather than a Molotov cocktail. And also, it's probably easier to make. So you can either start with just an empty can, an empty food can, or you can kind of build your own with EVA foam. That's what I've decided to do. So I've kind of made a cylinder with EVA foam, and even though it's not perfect, it's more than good enough. Then I cut various shapes into EVA foam to look like pointy stuff, like scissors, like nails, and I just glued them haphazardly onto the cylinder shape. Then painted the whole thing silver, added some rust, and that's it. Easy peasy. I can even throw it away. It's not gonna break, it's not gonna hurt anyone, and it looks good. Or at least it looks good enough. If you wanted to, I think you could use a Dremel or something like that to make some grooves on the side of the can to make it look more real, or you can print a fake label. That would help it a little bit more. Here we go, third prop done. For the guns, I've decided to do the revolver as I like it the most, and also I happened to find a file for it on Thingiverse. So I 3D printed the gun, glued it together, I sanded it smooth, and then primed it and painted it silver. I decided to do a brown handle because I think it looks a bit better than the black one for this specific model. I'm not being too precise here as I don't really see it as an essential part of the costume, The other weapons are far more iconic in my opinion. Also, if you wanted to, you could probably buy a toy gun and repaint it to look more real, and it would do the trick as well. I don't really recommend airsoft guns, as a lot of guns don't allow them anymore, and also they're pretty expensive. I think for this gun, it was probably about £2 of filament. So if you have a pal with a 3D printer, I would highly do that one. I'll link the Thingiverse file in the comment. Just know that it's not the best file and not everything fits pretty well. And now we're fully weathered and equipped with some props to help us take pictures, so we're ready to go. Here are the final results. While I show you the costume, I'll quickly go over how much it was to make it. I'll put all the prices on the screen. And that's it, which makes our total between 110 to 120 pounds, which is not too bad, especially since I've used the shirt in my daily life before, and also I'm still using the bag. So yeah, I would say it's pretty good. But as always, there's a few things that I'd like to tweak if I ever make a V2. I would definitely want to change the buttons on the shirt to have some gold snap buttons like the game. I would also like to modify the backpack slightly to allow it to carry weapons easier, and maybe make more props from the game to go along the costume and take pictures. I've been also thinking about maybe a wig and a fake beard to look more like the game, but putting it on properly is a skill in itself with my hair.
So here we go. That's it for us today. I love how the costume turned out. It's super comfortable on top of that. So it's gonna be a lot of fun wearing it at cons. So I hope this video was helpful for you today. Don't hesitate to let me know in the comments some ideas, some suggestions, and I'll read all of them. Also, if you want to subscribe to the channel to not miss anything that's coming out in the future, please do so. Anyway, I hope you had a great time with me today, and I wish you a super good day. Until next time, stay creative.